All right. Okay. Anybody wants to wrap up? What did we study last? The Guardian was on to subject of pioneering. And you know, the pioneering will never end until we actually build the golden civilization, and the most of the world is where it needs to be. Though the needs of it for how we do it changes every 20, 30, 40 years. Like recently, last 20 some years, there was a lot more need for home front pioneering rather than international pioneering, so to speak. But pioneering need is not going to be lifted up anytime soon. So he was teaching us how to be a good pioneer. And we are a pioneer of the faith anyway, even when you're living in your own localities, right? Because if our major purpose and goal of life is teaching, then no matter where I am at, that job is still mine. Even if I travel somewhere and go settle somewhere else or not, or I'm living in my own locality, because that is everybody's primary duty, it is very useful to take these skills and qualities out of it and try to nurture and build those inside ourselves. So he was talking about how to pay attention to their culture, their religion, their languages, their outlook on life. And actually, when you make friends, when you really become close friends to somebody, all of those elements are there. If you don't embark on those, you don't become a very good friend to somebody, right? Like when we really love each other, then you love what you have and all. We had this discussion in Haifa with some of the younger Indian friends at that time, because some of our cultures are stronger than others. I grew up mostly in China. Chinese work the same way too. Like they will come all the way here, traveling to US, and the next day after they arrive, they're looking for a Chinese restaurant everywhere. And I used to tease them all the time. I was like, you travel 10,000 miles away. First time ever you had the opportunity to go somewhere, go try something else. And they'll be like, oh, I don't like this or that or the other. I can't handle it. So I was used to have even these conversations that we must open up for these things, right? So if I come to your home and every day I'm like, I can't handle what you're doing, I can't eat what you're doing, we start creating a barrier. Yeah. So I don't agree with what you're wearing. I don't agree with how you're talking. I don't agree with how you live. All of those things, they start creating barriers. And the moment somebody's that way, it actually hinders you from becoming close to them. There's something shuts off inside, right? And the moment somebody you see is making an effort, even though if they can't eat spices, but they're making an effort, right? Like they're choking on it, but they're making an effort and it warms up your heart. And next time when you cook, you're trying to lower down your spices so they can handle it, right? But at the same time, if a person goes like, I don't touch this, I don't want that, you don't want to even care for them. I was like, you know what, whatever, go eat yourself somewhere else. So all these things are not even little, right? They're there. When we make friends, we make sacrifices. We make sacrifices for each other's culture, for each other's traditions, for each other's foods, right? Music, and all of those things. You know, they like some of yours, you have to like some of mine, and so forth and so on. And so we can actually. So the Guardian is talking about all of those things that we must learn. How do they live? What do they do? And then go accordingly. And that's very, very important for a teacher. If you're teaching the faith, you must be enthusiastic about people's different things. And sometimes those things are wrong, of course. And even then, we have to have a personality where often these question comes up. What about if somebody's doing this, that, or the other? But as a Baha'i, my duty is to be flexible. Yeah. I mean, I don't compromise my principle. Baha'u'lláh is very firm about that. I don't compromise my religion, my law for me, but I do not impose that onto the others, right? I'm flexible. And I show by example what is actually the right thing to do rather than forcing or pushing somebody away. Because if they already had good laws and they were following good habits, we wouldn't need Bab and Baha'u'lláh, right? So we must remember that all the time, that we are here to teach the world the right ways, how to conduct themselves. And that we do through example. And if somebody is then willing, then we share that. But until then, we are flexible, genuinely, sincerely flexible. And same as we are with the, yeah. So the Guardian is teaching us all of those things in the Pioneering qualities as a teacher's quality. All right. Prepondering share, paragraph 100. Are we alphabetical today? I think we are. So Alicia is not here. Who's next first?
Ariana.
All right. Go on.
I am moved at this juncture as I am reminded of the share which ever since the inception of the faith in the West, the handmaidens of Bahá'u'lláh, as distinguished from the men,
As distinguished from the men, have had in opening up, single-handed.
So many such diversified and widely scattered countries over the whole surface of the globe, not only to pay a tribute to such apostolic fervor as is truly reminiscent of those heroic men who were responsible for the birth of the faith of Baha'u'lláh, but also to stress the significance of such a preponderating share which the women of the West,
The women of the West have had and are having in establishment of his faith throughout the whole world.
among the miracles Abdul-Baha himself has testified, which
Distinguish this sacred dispensation is this, that women have evinced a greater boldness than men when enlisted in the ranks of the faith. That is true because every time, like since time immemorial, you have one or two very famous women, right? You have Mary Magdalene, you have Mary the Mother in Christianity, you have Pharaoh's wife that is mentioned in the Quran, and so forth and so on. And then Prophet Muhammad's couple of his wives and his daughter were very famous. Then right after, a couple of few women were very famous in promoting the faith and all that. You have Radha in very famous in the Hindu tradition, right? And so forth and so on. So every tradition had, from the very beginning, few of them, names at least. Maybe there were a lot more because people didn't write about women at that time, of course. So there's that as well. But there is nothing has been seen like this until now, and so it's quite amazing. I mean, maybe we should get the list of names for Abdul Baha's apostles. I think half of them, if not more, were women, and that's never been that's never happened before. It's quite amazing. Go on. Yeah.
so great and splendid a testimony applies in particular to the West, and though it has received thus far abundant and convincing confirmation, must, as the years roll away,
the further reinforced as the American believers usher in the most glorious phase of their teaching activities. So he's saying, yes, you've done great, but that doesn't mean you stop there, yeah? Keep on doing.
Under the 7-year plan, the boldness which in the words of Abdul-Baha has characterized their accomplishments in the past must suffer no eclipse as they stand on the threshold of still greater and nobler accomplishments. Nay, rather, it must, in the course of time and throughout the length and breadth of the vast and virgin territories of Latin America, be more convincingly demonstrated and win for the beloved cause victories more stirring than any it has yet achieved.
So it's quite amazing, actually, and the impact it does on other cultures, especially on the Asian, Latin American cultures. Many other cultures are still very, very conservative. When you have some kind of gathering and there are lots of women speaking here, it doesn't matter if it's religious or political or whatever, it does not make a gender impact anymore here. It's sort of business as normal. But I remember I was giving a talk, I was asked to give a talk on the faith during one of the Christmas functions when I was on one of my travels in Pakistan. And it was held by a couple of Christian churches together. And it was a very higher level of type of function. There were like 1,500 people, and most of them were like ambassadors and MPs and those kind of people. It's like the gathering was of that level. I believe I was the only woman, and they call it girl because I looked very, very young. So I was the only one who was actually representing a faith as a woman to go up on stage and speak. I mean, even in the gathering, they were mostly men, right? I was like, there were lots of women, of course, but out of 1,500, I'll say at least 1,000 to 1,200 were men, and maybe 200-300 were women, right? So then it's very, very, I mean, not even a quarter as much. And then it made such an impact. Just the fact alone that this community had a woman that was coming up and presenting, right? And then I was recently noticing during Abdul Baha's centenary, Bahrain had a very large function, and they invited the upper level of sheikhs and this and that. And there were 3 of the representatives from the Baha'i side were women. And this is in the middle of a Middle Eastern Arab country. And it just looking at the photo, it just like, you know, uplifts your soul, because every representative from the other side is, of course, a male, because that's traditionally how it happens. And so not only that, we had actually voluntarily simultaneously done this thing, but it has, I mean, we didn't do it for the purpose that people will have this kind of impact because you're a woman, you're speaking, but it comes with it. It happens. It's just amazing. When I was serving in Haifa in the secretariat, you get to see things very closely in a very different sort of angle, right? So we had 196 NSAs at that time. There are total 196, 97 countries in the world, right? So because Iran doesn't allow us, so you don't have an NSA in Iran and so forth and so on. So only a couple of countries that don't allow it didn't have it. Everything else, we did have an NSA. There were only, if I remember it right, don't quote me on this if I could be wrong, but I believe I counted that, and only 2 or 3 NSAs in the world were the ones where men were in majority, and the Baha'i NSAs. Only 2 or 3 in the whole world. Everything else, there were at least 5 women and only 4 men on most of the NSAs. I mean, it's amazing sort of phenomena. And yeah, so all right, go on. So those of you here, women, take some pride and take some light and guidance from it and do more. Yeah. Go on. Yes.
The Baha'i Youth. To the Baha'i Youth of America, moreover, I feel a word should be addressed in particular. As I surveyed the possibilities which a campaign of such gigantic proportions has to offer to the eager and enterprising spirit that so powerfully animates them in the service of the cause of Baha'u'lláh. Though lacking in experience and faced with insufficient resources, yet the adventurous spirit which they possess and the vigor, the alertness and optimism they have thus far so consistently shown, qualified them to play an active part in arousing the interest and in securing the allegiance of their fellow youth in those countries. No greater demonstration can be given to the peoples of both continents of the youthful vitality and the vibrant power animating the life and the institutions of the nascent faith of Baha'u'lláh.
And an intelligent, again, qualities, note those, then an intelligent, persistent, and effective participation of the Baha'i youth of every race, nationality, and class in both the teaching and administrative spheres of Baha'i activity.
Through such a participation, the critics and the enemies of the faith, watching with varying degrees of skepticism and resentment the evolutionary process of the cause of God and its institutions, can best
be convinced of the indubitable truth that such a cause is intensely alive, is sound to its very core, and its destinies in safekeeping, right? Because next generation is the one who's going to go and become all of those that right now my age people are, right? Your parents' age, I'm your parents' age. So what we are serving as, wherever we are doing, whatever we are doing, it has to be replaced by you, all of you young ones, within what, some of you less than 10 years now, yeah? Because those of you who are 14, 15, within next, well, the House has changed the age for voting at 18, right? That's a huge responsibility already. And by the time you're 21, you are now able to serve on the assemblies as voted for. So you have 5-6 years left of your life to actually get pushed into actual work of administration. And this is the time actually to prepare yourself, yeah? Because we serve on those institutions as Baha'is. If you were not Baha'is, nobody would want us, yeah? So if I'm an assembly member, I'm an assembly member because I'm a Baha'i, not because somebody just elected me. So if I don't have the knowledge of Baha'u'lláh, if I don't know how to deal with issues as his path is laid up, then I'm wasting my life and my time and his faith actually, yeah? Because it's not a secular, some kind of political place where you just, work your worth through whatever. We're serving on the administration because we're Baha'is. And therefore, it must be a Baha'i conduct and Baha'i service. And this is the time now. That's why Guardian was really, but Guardian didn't say that at 13, 14, you should be doing things that adults need to do. We kind of misconstrue that in certain places as well. Keep on pushing the youth to do things that actually adults should be doing. But their time is to learn as assistants and prepare yourself, your knowledge for what is it, how do you need to conduct yourself? So by the time comes that you are in those positions, then you don't have to be lost, yeah? Go on.
I hope and indeed pray that such a participation may not only redound to the glory, the power, and the prestige of the faith, but may also react so powerfully on the spiritual lives
And galvanize to such an extent the energies of the youthful members of the Baha'i community,
as to empower them to display in a fuller measure their inherent capacities and to unfold a further stage in their spiritual evolution under the shadow of the faith of Baha'u'lláh.
And it's a very natural process for those of us who are of parent age. After you do 10, 20 years of things, there's of course lots of hurdles and hardships, right? And so what happens is that this kind of inertia starts sitting into you. Like you get used to how you do things, even if those things are wrong. And that you see that a lot around. I mean, some of your moms complain about this, right? And rightfully so, because those who are in it, doing it for 10, 20 years, they get into these modes of doings that might not be quite really according to the faith or the writings or anything, but they just get used to that. And everywhere this is a problem, by the way. So the more we age, and then a lot of times when you get a lot of pushback, people start getting more conservative and more scared as well. They don't want to take bold actions because they're afraid of getting this hurt that happens through this pushback. Yeah? But when we are young, we don't care about those things. You're so full of dreams. You're so full of this ambition and zeal that you want to change things, right? You want to get things better. So what better way than when you are 21 and embark on those things that you actually bring change? Yeah, because you wouldn't hesitate sitting on the assembly and say, whoa, wait a minute, why are you doing this? This is not Baha'i administration. This is not what Baha'u'lláh wants, right? And those of us who are 40, 45, 50 years old by then or older, they kind of get like, I don't know, there's something happens to our bodies and souls. But when we are young, we are a lot more courageous. And that's zeal he's talking about, yeah? And so that zeal must be, what you call it, harnessed, yeah? So if you don't have the actual knowledge of the writings in hand, then that same zeal can really backfire. Because now you're running after stupid stuff, and that's not what needs to happen either, yeah? So that zeal needs to be harnessed, and knowledge is really, really important. So now is the time to get that. All right, next, the special position of paramount.
Please explain this galvanize. The word galvanize is very interesting.
Yes, yes. The Guardian's language is just amazing and precise. He picks only the word he means to use. All right. 102, whose turn is it?
It's me. The faithful to the provisions of the charter laid down by the pen of Abdul Baha, I feel it my duty to draw the special attention of those to whom it has been entrusted to the urgent needs of and the special position enjoyed by the Republic of Panama, both in view of its relative proximity to the heart and center of the faith in North America and of its geographical position as the link between two continents. All the above countries, Abdul Baha, referring to the Latin states in one of the tablets of the divine plan, has written, have importance, but especially the Republic of Panama, wherein the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans come together through the Panama Canal. It is a center for travel and passage from America to other continents of the world, and in the future it will gain most great importance. Likewise, he again has written, he must give great attention to the Republic of Panama, for in that point, the Occident and the Orient find each other united through the Panama Canal, and it is also situated between the two great oceans. That place will become very important in the future. Second time he's saying that. The teachings once established there will unite the East and the West, the North and the South.
The teachings once established there will unite the East and the West.
So privileged a position surely demands the special and prompt attention of the American Baha'i community. With the Republic of Mexico already opened up to the faith, and with the spiritual assembly properly constituted in its capital city, the southward penetration of the faith of Baha'u'lláh into a neighboring country is but a natural and logical step, and should it is to be hoped, prove to be not a difficult one.
No effort should be spared and no sacrifice be deemed too great.
To establish, even though it be a very small group in a republic occupying both spiritually and geographically so strategic a position. A group which, in view of the potency with which the words of Abdul Baha have already endowed it, cannot but draw to itself, as soon as it is formed, the outpouring grace of the Agha kingdom, and evolve with such marvelous swiftness as to excite the wonder and the admiration of even those who have already witnessed such stirring evidences of the force and power of the faith of Baha'u'lláh. Preference, no doubt, should be given by all would-be pioneers
as well as by members of the Inter-American Committee to the spiritual needs of this privileged republic.
Though every effort should at the same time be exerted to introduce the faith, however tentatively, to the republics of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica, which could link it in an unbroken chain with its mother assemblies in the North American continent. Obstacles, however formidable, should be surmounted. The resources of the Baha'i treasury should be liberally expended on its behalf, and the ablest and most
precious exertions should be consecrated to the cause of his awakening.
The erection of yet another outpost of the faith in its heart will constitute, I firmly believe, a landmark in the history of the formative period of the faith of Baha'u'lláh in the New World. It will create limitless opportunities, galvanize the efforts, and reinvigorate the life of those who will have accomplished this feat and infuse immense courage and boundless joy into the hearts of the isolated groups and individuals in the neighboring and distant republics, and exert intangibly yet powerful spiritual influences on the life and future development of its people.
When we are reading God Passes By and this and a couple of few other works of the Guardian, like The Promised Days Come and so forth and so on, you can't help but to look around what is happening in our countries, in our respective countries, to these respective people that we were asked to actually be successful. We actually have not been successful, right? I mean, yes, we have assemblies everywhere and we have Baha'is everywhere, but not to the degree and numbers that needed to be achieved. Right now, last 7-8 years now, there is this huge atrocity that is happening to Mexican immigrants and stuff and all that in America, right? If most of us on this side and that side were Baha'is by now, none of this would happen. Any of the atrocities that is happening in India between different classes or different religions, if we actually successfully did our work, none of those would be happening today. The Guardian was determined, 70, 80 years ago, asking us to teach the respect of Islam to other people, those who are abhorrent of it, and we didn't really successfully do the work. And so see how much animosity and all sorts of abrupting right now. And it doesn't just hinder their lives, it hinders my life too. It hinders the life of my children. So always think about those things when you're reading, now that we are historically 70, 80 years from when we were told what to do. And so it's not for the purpose of pointing a finger to say, oh my God, what the hell did we do and why didn't they do it, right? The purpose of doing it that way is that I learned for myself that maybe I need to get up and do better job at my work for what's given to me, because when we can see that we didn't really fully listen to things and now things are actually painful for ourselves and for others, that it should actually motivate us to do better, yeah? So always look at those conditions when you're reading these things. And as I was saying, you're talking about North and South America here, but same issues are permeated in India as well, just different names and different people, right? So we were told to do different things and we kind of are unfortunately lazy and we don't really accomplish the amount of deals that have been asked of us. And so we should learn from these that if we keep on doing this laziness, then the pain and suffering stays. And it doesn't stay at the same level as it was 100 years ago. It only escalates, gets deeper and larger. So we must take heart from these things and do our work better. Go on, it's my turn, right? And inscrutable wisdom and all compelling will. Such, dearly beloved friends, is the vista that stretches before the eyes, the challenges and the resources of the American Baha'i community in these, the concluding years of the first century of the Baha'i era. Such are the qualities and qualifications, note these, such are the qualities and qualifications demanded of them for the proper discharge of their responsibilities and duties. Such are the requirements, the possibilities, and the objectives of the plan that claim every ounce of their energy. Who knows, but that these few remaining fast fleeting years may not be pregnant with events of unimaginable magnitude. And we can see those unimaginable magnitudes everywhere on the globe. Oh my God, pregnant with the events of unimaginable magnitude, with ordeals more severe than any that humanity has as yet experienced, right? We are so divided globally and at each other's throat that we have ever been, historically speaking. The Guardian elsewhere said that the world of humanity has never seen such darkness before. And when you pay attention to where we are going and what is happening, and if you don't correct our course, where we could end up, it's very scary. Ordeals more severe than any that humanity has as yet experienced, with conflicts more devastating than any which have preceded them, right? We see all of this. Dangers, however sinister, must at no time dim the radiance of their newborn faith, right? So that's what I'm saying, that we don't look at these things so we could like hunker down and be afraid. We look at these things in comparison so we get courage, because these are proofs that if we don't do our job, this is what keeps on happening. So that should really like make us stand up and do our portion better and better every day, yeah? Newborn faith, strife and confusion, however bewildering, and this is so permeated right now. through media and through social media and through Facebook and through all the other things. Humanity, and especially young people, are so lost and divided. Your job is to hold the candle up. Hold the candle up of the right philosophy, right living, and right love for each other, yeah? Strife and confusion, however bewildering, must never befog their vision. Must never befog their vision, right? And the only time we could accomplish that is if we actually know what the writings are calling us for. And we have inculcated those characters inside ourselves. Then you're firm and you know what the world is doing wrong and what you have will work. Yeah. Tribulations, however afflictive, must never shatter their resolve. Denunciations, that will happen too, all right? In today's world, you go and you say you are going to have a chaste and holy life, people laugh at you. Yeah, denunciations. But I know what I believe is right. I know what I believe is at the highest level. Yeah, if you can cultivate that in your heart, no amount of denunciation makes you embarrassed. Yeah. Denunciations, however clamorous, must never sap their loyalty to the faith, yeah, to Baha'u'llah's word. Upheavals, however cataclysmic, must never deflect their course. Must never deflect their course, yeah. The present plan, embodying the budding hopes of a departed master, must be pursued, relentlessly pursued. And that plan was what? To reach all the way to Commonwealth, to the golden civilization, to the most great peace for the whole of humanity. Yeah. And all of those characteristics we are studying that I need to develop in myself, that's what brings peace, by the way. Laying down the weapons doesn't. Laying down the weapons just ceases the war for a little while. That's about it. But until our hearts are changed and our characters are changed, that we are firm to how God wants us to live for ourselves and for others, with others, we cannot have peace. So these are not small matters. Yeah, these are the most important matters. Must be pursued, relentlessly pursued, whatever may befall them in the future, however distracting the crisis that may agitate their country or the world. Far from yielding in their resolve, far from growing oblivious of their task, they should at no time, however much buffeted by circumstances, forget that the synchronization of such world-shaking crisis with the progressive unfoldment and fruition of their divinely appointed task is itself the work of providence. Yeah. Also, all the things are breaking because that is a proof to humanity that what we are doing cannot work. Make sense? When we walk away from the path, it doesn't work, it breaks down. So when things are breaking down, they actually are now from the other negative side of things, are teaching humanity what not to do. Yeah. And when you get embarked on the teaching field, that's where you find those people like me who saw that this doesn't work and it will not work. What we are doing will not work. Then you ask for, okay, then what? Where do we go from here? And that's when the time was right for a Baha'i to come in and say, God has sent pathway. God has sent a map. This is where we need to go and it will work. And when you have seen and your life has been broken through all those wrong things we did, then the firmness comes in your heart to say, yes, as soon as you read what he wants, you know that this is what will work. And that wouldn't. So everything is actually preparing the whole universe as putting it on a platter for you, the people and its nations and its miseries. It's God is creating all of that, and it's like putting people's heart on a platter for you to succeed in teaching, if you just know how. Yeah, and the Guardian was teaching us how to get there. You cannot get anywhere without it. Crisis with the progressive, work of providence, the design of an inscrutable wisdom, and the purpose of an all-compelling will, a will that directs and controls in its own mysterious way both the fortunes of the faith and the destinies of men. We're talking about will and testament of Abdul Baha, will of Baha'u'lláh, so forth and so on, yeah? such simultaneous processes of rise and fall, of integration and disintegration, of order and chaos, with their continuous and reciprocal, they're building onto each other. Something breaks, something builds. You build something, something else breaks that does not work, right? Integration and disintegration, building and destruction, of reciprocal reaction onto each other, are but aspects of a greater plan, one and indivisible. It's one thing, right? It's one thing, whose source is God. I love this paragraph. Whose source is God, whose author is Baha'u'lláh, the theater of whose operations is the entire planet, and whose ultimate objectives are the unity of the human race and the peace of all mankind. Yeah, what did Abdul Baha says? What will bring peace? Not cessation of war. Yes, that's a part of it, but that's a small part of it. He says, what is the cause of war? Prejudice, Abdul Baha said. And you can see that when you actually live life and openly live life and experience what happens when people do these things to you, right? Like Shimi and we were talking about last time, like how there is prejudice of color, of class, all that breaks down relationships. You don't want to be friends with those who look down at you. Without friendship, there is no peace between us. Yeah. Abdul Baha says the root cause of war is prejudices, all source of prejudices. So if you build that character on true lines of loving each other, then you have actually accomplished to get the world away from war. Yeah. Next. Let's hurry.
Reflections such as these should steel the resolve of entire Baha'i community, should dissipate their forbiddings and arouse them to rededicate themselves to every provisions of that divine character whose outline has
divine charter. We are talking about Abdul Baha's will and the divine 14 divine plan tablets.
Had been delineated for them by the pen of Abdul Baha. The 7-year plan, as already stated, is but the initial stage, a stepping stone to the unfoldment of the implications of the character
of this charter.
The impulse originally generated through the movement of that pen, and which is now driving forward with increasing momentum. The machinery of the 7-year plan must, in the opening years of the next century, be further accelerated and impel the American Baha'i community to launch further stages in the unfoldment of the divine plan, stages that will carry it far beyond the shores of the Northern Hemisphere, into lands and among peoples where that community's noblest acts of the heroism are to be performed.
Advent of the kingdom.
The advent of the kingdom. Let anyone inclined to doubt the course which this enviable community is destined to follow, turn to and meditate upon these words of Abdul Baha, enshrined for all time in the tablets of the divine plan, and addressed to the entire community of the believers of the United States and Canada. The full measure of your success, he informs them, is as yet unrevealed, its significance still unapprehended. Ere long, ye will, with your own eyes, witness how brilliantly every one of you, even as a shining star, will radiate in the firmament of your country the light of divine guidance, and will bestow upon its people of everlasting life. The range of your future achievements still remains undisclosed. I fervently hope that in the near future of the whole earth may be stirred and shaken by the results of your achievements. The hope, therefore, which Abdul Baha cherishes for you is that the same success which has attended your efforts in America may crown your endeavors in other parts of the world. That through you the fame of the cause of God may be diffused throughout the East and the West, and from the advent of the kingdom of the Lord of hosts be proclaimed in all the 5 continents of the globe. The moment he most significantly adds, this divine message is carried forward by the American believers from the shores of America and is propagated throughout the continents of Europe, of Asia, of Africa, and of Australasia, and as far as the islands of the Pacific. This country will find this community will find itself securely established upon the throne of an everlasting dominion. Then will all the peoples of the world witness that this community is spiritually illumined and divinely guided.
Then
will
will the whole earth resound with the praise of His majesty and greatness. And that has been achieved, by the way. We spoke about it in the early pages. Before Second World War, America was nowhere on the map of the world. I mean, it was just a country, nobody cared about it. And within the 10-year crusades, it's the American believers at large that opened most of the territories. That promise of Abdul Baha was actually fulfilled, that they did that work, and simultaneously, even though the Baha'is were doing Baha'i work, but the country itself was lifted up in the world and became the focal center, and has been since then. All these years, all these decades has been the main center point of the world. It's quite amazing. Go on.
No reader of these words, so vibrant with promises, that not even the triumphant consummation of the 7-year plan can fulfill, can expect a community that has been raised so high and endowed so richly to rest upon such laurels would indeed be
to remain content.
to remain content with any laurels it may win in the immediate future. To rest upon such laurels would indeed be tantamount to a betrayal of the trust placed in that community by Abdul Baha. To cut short the chain of victories that must lead it on to that supreme triumph when the whole earth may be stirred and shaken by the results of his achievements would shatter his hopes. To vacillate and fail to propagate through the continents of Europe, of Asia, of Africa, and of Australasia, and as far as the islands of the Pacific. A message so magnificently proclaimed by it in the American continent would deprive it of the privilege of being securely established upon the throne of an everlasting dominion. To forfeit in the honor of proclaiming the advent of the kingdom of the Lord of hosts in all 5 continents of the globe would silence those praises of His majesty and greatness that otherwise would echo throughout the whole earth.
You know, this reminds me over and over the scriptures when they say, only if, yeah, there are promises of heaven to you, but only if you did the work, only if you stayed consistent to do the work, right? So the humanity has made up this whole sense of, oh, we are chosen now, and whatever we do, God loves us. God has never said that, never said that. There's always a condition to be fulfilled, because fulfilling that condition is only just, by the way, right? So if God chose you just because He likes your face, and no matter what you do, you are chosen among other people, what kind of justice is that? No God will do that, right? He's not respecter of our colors or our names, yeah? And Abdul Baha said that, Baha'u'lláh said that. Just because you call yourself Baha'is doesn't mean that, you know, you're there. If you don't do the work, then it will be taken away from you. You're not there, right? So even though you are accomplishing so much, acknowledged by the guardian that you're accomplishing so much, yet always there's that warning. Always there's that warning to all of us individually, no matter where we live, right? No matter how good you have become right now, you can't rest on that. Until I leave this world, every day of that vigilance is our duty for my own safety, yeah? Next.
Such vacillation, failure, or neglect The American believers, the ambassadors of the faith of Baha'u'lláh, will
Ambassadors of the faith of Baha'u'lláh. By the way, at some point, I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, the house has called all the Baha'is in that sort of rank. We are the ambassadors of the faith in the world. Yeah. And actually, if you remember this every day, it is not just uplifting, it reminds you at all times what a responsibility that is, right? Every time you want to misbehave, that thing kind of holds you back to say, uh-oh, you know, this will reflect on the faith. My behavior reflects on Baha'u'lláh. Yeah. And that's why he said that, what? My enemies don't hurt me. My imprisonment doesn't hurt me. It's those who call themselves my friends and do wrong. That's what hurts me. All right. The ambassadors of the faith of Baha'u'lláh will.
I am firmly convinced, never permit. Such a trust will never be betrayed. Such hopes can never be shattered. Such a privilege will never be forfeited, nor will such praises remain unuttered. Nay, rather the present generation of this repeatedly blessed community will go from strength to strength and will hand on as the 4th century draws to a close to the generations that must succeed in it. The second, the torch of divine guidance,
undimmed by tempestuous winds that must blow upon it. It's a necessity. Yeah. We often, I mean, I too included, throw up my hands and I was like, I want some peace. Don't hit me so hard. But it's must. It's a necessity. Yeah. Undimmed by the wind that must blow upon it. That they in turn,
faithful to the wish and mandate of Abdul Baha, may carry that torch with the self-same vigor, fidelity, and enthusiasm to the darkest and remotest corners of the earth.
yeah. Next.
Dearly beloved friends, I can do no better, eager as I am to extend to every one of you any assistance in my power that may enable you to discharge more effectively
your divinely appointed, continually multiplying duties than to direct your special attention at this decisive hour to these immortal passages. Immortal means the one that do not die. The lessons in those are forever.
It's amazing, continually multiplying duties. Than to direct your attention at this decisive hour to these immortal passages, gleaned in part from the great mass of Baha'u'llah's unpublished and untranslated writings, whether in his revelation of the station and functions of his loved ones, or his eulogies of the greatness of his cause, or his emphasis on the paramount importance of teaching, or the dangers which he foreshadows, the counsels he imparts, the warnings he utters, the vistas he discloses, and the assurances and promises he gives. These dynamic and typical examples of Baha'u'llah's sublime utterance, each having a direct
bearing on the tasks which actually face or lie ahead of the American Baha'i community, cannot fail to produce
on the minds and hearts of any one of its members who approaches them with befitting humility and detachment, such powerful reactions as to illuminate his entire being and intensify tremendously his daily exertions.
And some of, actually most of these still only exist in Advent of Divine Justice. Some of them has not been even found out by the research department where from which volumes of Baha'u'lláh the Guardian took these. They're quite amazing. Go on, whose turn is it?
Rehana Dadi's turn.
Rehana? Oh, friends. It's a very long paragraph. Just read the first till the first quarter of the next page, and then next person takes up, right? Sorry?
Okay, it's Reshna's turn then.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Oh friends, be not careless of the virtues with which ye have been endowed.
This is
Neither
Baha'u'llah
to
himself telling us that, right? Remember this. This is Baha'u'llah's words. Oh friends, be not careless of the virtues with which you have been endowed.
neither be neglectful of your high destiny. Ye are the stars of the heaven of understanding, the breeze that stirreth at the break of day, the soft flowing waters upon which must depend the very life of all men.
Soft flowing waters upon which must depend the very life of all men. Can we imagine the responsibility he's putting on our shoulders? Because we are the ones, when we accept him, we understand what the world needs. We are supposed to understand if we study right. We are the ones who are supposed to understand what the world needs. So if you go to a hospital and there is no doctor to be found, what would you do? Right? It's a doctor's job to help you. That's how we are. That's who we are supposed to be. Physicians. Go on.
The letters inscribed upon his sacred scroll, O people of Bahá'í, ye are the breezes of spring that are wafted over the world. Through you, we have adorned the world of being with the ornament of the knowledge of the most.
Ornament of the knowledge, right? So Baha'u'llah himself is insisting that we must study and gain knowledge of what? Of his revelation, of the books of his revelation. What is it that God is calling for us? Yeah.
The ornament of knowledge of the most merciful. Through you, the continency of the world hath been
the face of the world, right? The continents of the world, the face of the world, hath been wreathed in smiles. Right?
wreathed in smiles, and the brightness of his light shone forth. Cling ye the cord of steadfastness in such wise that all vain imaginations may utterly vanish. Speed ye forth from the horizon of power in the name of your Lord, the unconstrained and announce unto his servants with wisdom and
eloquence. Wisdom and eloquence. Both of these do not come without knowledge and experience, right? Eloquence comes with vast amount of knowledge. You know what to say, how to say it. Yeah, that's eloquence. You always know what to say and how to say it is eloquence. Wisdom is when to say it, why to say it, and what not to say. That's wisdom. That comes with implementation of that knowledge with experience, yeah? Because now you know the situation, you're always gauging the situation. If you know everything that you need to know, only then wisdom comes easy to apply, yeah? Because if you don't know what we don't have the knowledge, we just spit out whatever we have. That's not wisdom, yeah? Go on.
the tidings of this cause, whose splendor hath been shed upon the world of beings. Beware lest
Beware lest anything withhold you. Beware, be mindful. Beware lest anything withhold you from observing the things prescribed unto you by the pen of glory. And we unfortunately see that left and right in the world right now. Whatever the world is running after, a lot of us run after that too. That's not what we are supposed to be. We are supposed to run what God has given us. But if you don't know what God has given us, what would we run after? Yeah. If you don't gain solid knowledge of the writings, then what happens is whatever sounds good to your ears, that's what you do. And just because it sounds good to your ears does not mean that that is the right thing to do.
as it moved over his tablet and sovereign majesty and might. Great is the blessedness of him that hath hearkened to its shrill voice, as it was raised through the power of truth before all who are in heaven and all who are in earth, who are on earth. O people of Baha, the river that is life ended has flowed for your sakes. Quaff ye,
Quaff means drink it in my name.
quaff ye in my name. Despite them all have disbelieved in God, the Lord of revelation. We have made you to the hands of our cause. Render ye victories that wronged.
Who hath been sore tried in the hands of the workers of iniquity. He verily will aid everyone that aideth him, and will remember everyone that remembereth him. On Baha'u'lláh, do the work. To this, who's next? This was very long. Thank you, Reshma. Let's the next person read the rest of it. It's a very long page.
To this beareth witness, this tablet that hath shed the splendor of the loving kindness of your Lord, the all glorious, the all compelling. Blessed are the people of Baha. God beareth me witness. They are the solace of the eye of creation. Through them the universe has been adorned, and the preserved tablet embellished. They are the ones who have sailed on the ark of complete independence, with their faces set towards the dayspring of beauty. How great is their blessedness that they have attained unto what their Lord, the omniscient, the all-wise, hath willed. Through their light, the heavens have been adorned, and the faces of those that have drawn nigh unto him made to shine. By the sorrows which afflict the beauty of the all-glorious, such is the station ordained for the true believer, that if to an extent smaller than a needle's eye, the glory of that station were to unveil to mankind, every beholder would be consumed away in his longing to attain it. For this reason, it had been decreed that in this earthly life, the full measure of the glory of his station should remain concealed from the eyes of such a believer. If the veil be lifted and the full glory of the station of those who have turned wholly towards God.
Turn wholly towards God, not just everyone, not just because I call myself Baha'i, right? But those who have turned wholly toward God. What does that mean, by the way? We don't know God. God's unknowable. How do we turn to him? How do we turn wholly to him? We've spoken about it several times in Kitab-e-Gan class. Anybody remembers? What is construed as turning to God, wholly turning to God?
Attachment.
Sorry?
Attachment.
Scripture. Following the scripture. Not a centimeter less, not a centimeter more. All right, that's will of God. What is will of God? God doesn't speak to us directly. He has spoken to manifestation. Next time he speaks to humanity is when the next manifestation comes. He does not directly address us, right? So the will of God is not some willy-nilly thing out there. I don't know. People say that often. I don't know whatever the will of God is. Like, what the hell do you mean by that? What do you mean I don't know what the will of God is? The will of God is being given to you in 100 volumes this time. That's what the will of God is. It's his word. He's already told us what he wants, right? And so we live it and we believe in it and we live it as best of our capacity, right? That does not mean that we won't make mistakes, but a sincere soul, when it truly turns to the writings, that's what he wants, right? Turn wholly towards God and
in their love for him, renounce the world, be made manifest. The entire creation would be dumbfounded.
Yeah, and there is lots of times we read these things and we don't really reflect the deeper meanings into that, because the beauty of it just takes you away. So he's not using these things like, oh, you are the breeze of spring, right? I mean, why? Why is he calling you that? What happens in the world? If you don't sow the seeds in the spring, the whole of humanity has no food to eat for the rest of the year. Yeah. So he's like, I'm the one who's starting the whole year for everybody. And if I don't do my work, then everybody goes hungry. Yeah. These things matter. He's not just using nice words to be nice to our ears. Everything he says means something. Yeah. So always when you read them, pay attention to these things. Who's next?
Verily I say, no one had apprehended the root of this cause. It is incumbent upon everyone.
It is incumbent duty. It is everyone's duty. It is incumbent upon everyone in this day to perceive with the eye of God. Again, Egan was talking about it. What does that mean? We don't want to see anything in the world but through what the scripture says, how we see it. Yeah? Through the writings, we see everything in the world, every action, everything, every event, every future, every past, every day of my life. We see it through the writings. If we can do that, that's what is construed as wholly turning to God. And only then that station is promised you. Yeah. One.
And to hearken with his ear. Whoso beholdeth me with an eye besides my own will never be able to.
Whoso beholdeth me, whoso beholdeth anything, any knowledge in the world but God's knowledge, right? Whoso beholdeth me with an eye besides mine own will never be able to know me. And that's what happens in our lives, dear friends, all the time, because we don't see ourselves and our lives through the writings. We see it through our cultures, through what the world is doing, what the globe is doing, what my condition is right now, whatever it is, whatever my happiness and ailment is of my body. I keep on seeing things from that end, and I never quite feel like I get there. But he promised that if I keep on doing that, I'll never get there. He was very clear about that from the beginning. In every scripture, by the way, not just Baha'u'llah, every scripture was clear about it. You will never get to that felicity, never would get to that golden days of your life unless you do this. Yeah. So it permeates in everything in our lives. We look at each other same at our own level, or colors, or class, or creed, or gender, or everything has to be judged from that angle then. What is it that, how does God want us to see it? Yeah. How do we treat each other? How do we treat ourselves? Everything, all of that needs to be seen from the eyes of the writings. And if we don't know the writings, how would we see it? I mean, we don't even have a starting point. Yeah.
none among the manifestations of old, except to a prescribed degree, hath ever completely apprehended the nature of this revelation. I testify before God to the greatness, the inconceivable greatness of this revelation. Again and again have we, in the most of our tablets, borne witness to this truth, that mankind may be roused from its heedlessness.
How great is the cause, how staggering the weight of its message. It is. It actually is almost everything the world is doing. God is asking us to do the opposite almost, if you really pay attention to that. Everything. Everything. It's amazing amount of burden to learn to get to that.
In this most mighty revelation, all the dispensations of the past have attained their highest, their final consummation. That which has been made manifest in this preeminent, this most exalted revelation stands unparalleled in the annals of the past, nor will future ages witness its like. The purpose underlying all creation is the revelation of this most sublime, this most holy day, the day known as the day of God in his books and scriptures, the day which all the prophets and the chosen ones and the holy ones have wished to witness. The highest essence and most perfect expression of whatsoever the peoples of old have either said or written had, through this most potent revelation, been sent down from the heaven of the will of the all-possessing, the ever-abiding God. This is the day in which God's most excellent favors have been poured out upon men, the day in which his most mighty grace had been infused into all created things. This is the day whereon the ocean of God's mercy had been manifested unto day whereon the ocean of God's mercy had been manifested unto men, the day in which the day star of his loving kindness hath shed its radiance upon them, the day in which the clouds of his bountiful favor have overshadowed the whole of mankind. By the righteousness of mine own self, great, immeasurably great is this cause, mighty, inconceivably mighty in this day. Every prophet had announced the coming of this day, and every messenger had groaned in his yearning for this revelation, a revelation which no sooner had it been revealed than all created things cried out, saying, the earth is God's, the most exalted, the most great. The day of the promise is come.
The day of the promise is come. That's why we call it the cycle of fulfillment. That's why the Guardian wrote that little book. The promise day is come. We should read that. The day of the promise is come.
And he who is the promised one loudly proclaim it before all who are in heaven and all who are on earth. Verily, there is none other God but he, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. I swear by God, that which hath
been enshrined from eternity in the knowledge of God, the knower of the seen and the unseen, is revealed.
Happy is the eye that seeth, and the face that turneth towards the countenance of God, the Lord of all being. Great indeed is this day, the allusions made to it in all the sacred scriptures as the day of God attest its greatness. The soul of every prophet of God, of every divine messenger, had thirsted for this wondrous day. All the diverse kindreds of the earth have likewise yearned to attain it. This day, a door is opened wider than both heaven and earth. The eye of mercy of him.
Eye of the mercy of him who is the desire of the world is turned towards all men. All men.
An act, however, infinitesimal is, when viewed in the mirror of the knowledge of God, mightier than a mountain. Every drop proffered is in his path is as a sea in that mirror. For this is the day which the one true God, glorified be he, had announced in all his books unto his prophets and his messengers. This is a revelation under which, if a man shed for its sake one drop of blood, millions of oceans will be his recompense. A fleeting moment in this day excels centuries of a bygone age. Neither sun nor moon had witnessed a day such as this day. This is the day whereon the unseen world crieth out, Great is thy blessedness, O earth, for thou hast been made the footstool of thy God, and been chosen as the seat of his mighty throne. The word of being shineth in this day with the resplendency of this divine revelation. All created things extol its saving grace and sing its praises. The universe is wrapped in ecstasy of joy and gladness. The scriptures of past dispensations celebrate the great jubilee that must needs greet this most great day of God. Well is it with him that had lived to see this day and recognized his station. This day a different sun had arisen, and a different heaven had been adorned with its stars and its planets. The world is another world, and the cause another cause. This is the day which past ages and centuries can never rival. Know this and be not of the ignorant.
This is the day whereon human ears have been privileged to hear what he who conversed with God, Moses, heard upon Sinai. What he who is the friend of God, Muhammad, heard when lifted up towards him. On Miraj, the mention is, what he who is the Spirit of God, Jesus, heard as he ascended unto him. The help in peril, the self-subsisting. The day is God's. Who's reading next? It's a long paragraph, next one. And by the way, those of you who are interested, and all of us should be interested because we are asked to do this, if you can read the Psalms of David in the Bible, you will get a glimpse of what Baha'u'lláh was talking about. The whole of Psalms of David's are written on this longing to see this day in an amazing language. And it's not very large work. So if you just can read that out of the Bible, it will actually show you what Baha'u'lláh was talking about. Next.
This day is God's day, and this cause his cause. Happy is he who hath renounced this world, and clung to him who is the dayspring of God's revelation. This is the King of days, the day that hath seen the counting of the best beloved. He who through all eternity hath been acclaimed the desire of the world. This is the chief of all days and the king thereof. Great is the blessedness of him who hath attained through the sweet savor of these days unto everlasting life, and who, with the most
great steadfastness, hath risen to aid the cause of him who is the King of names. Such a man is as the eye to the body of mankind. Peerless is this day, but it is as the eye to past ages and centuries. And you dance on this when you actually study the scriptures of Baha'u'lláh, because God had promised all those past centuries and ages, thousands of years, that soon the time will come and all of your differences, God himself will explain. All things to you will be made clear. And they have been thousands of years of generations have waited for this and suffered for this. And here it is in our hand. So it's a great, mighty responsibility to learn it and deliver it to mankind. Go on.
Entreat ye the one true God, that he may deprive not the eyes of men from beholding his sign, nor their ears from hearkening unto the shrill voice of the pen of glory. These days are God's days, movement of which ages and centuries can never rival. An atom in these days is as the sun, a drop or as the ocean. One single breath exhaled in the love of God and for his service is written down by the pen of glory as a priceless deed. A princely deed. Were the virtues of this day to be recounted, all would be thunderstruck, except those whom thy Lord hath exempted. by the righteousness of God. They are
the days in which God had proved the hearts of the entire company of his messenger prophets.
and beyond them, those that stand guard over his sacred and inviolable sanctuary. The inmates of the celestial pavilion and dwellers of the tabernacle of glory. Should be greatness of this day be revealed in its fullness. Every man would forsake a myriad lives in his longing to partake to for one moment, for its great glory. How much more this world as its corruptible treasure. God, the true one, is my witness. This is the day, thereupon is incumbent upon.
Whereon it is incumbent, again, duty. Incumbent means duty. It is incumbent upon everyone that setteth to behold, and every ear that hearkeneth to hear, and every heart that understandeth to perceive, and every tongue that speaketh to proclaim unto all who are in heaven and on earth this holy, this exalted, and all highest name. Say, O men, this is a matchless day. Matchless must likewise be the tongue that celebrated the praise of the desire of all nations. And matchless the deed
that aspireth to be acceptable in his sight. The whole human race hath longed for this day, that perchance it may fulfill that which will be seemeth its station and is worthy of its destiny.
Right? So reading these things, do you remember the paragraphs the guardian was declaring and describing? What does that mean? What is the matchless deed? What is the matchless character, right? How we are to be fair and just through and through. How we are supposed to be chaste and holy through and through. How we're supposed to be the pure love to everything and everyone that God creates through and through. That's the matchless deed. That's the matchless heart that he's been teaching us how to develop that. That's what the world longs for, by the way, yeah? The world longs for that friendship, sincerity, honesty, dependability, truthfulness, justice. Yeah, a person that everyone can depend on and trust. That's what the world longs for, and that's what Baha'u'lláh wants us to be. Yeah, that's what will change it. Next.
Through the movement of our pen of glory, we have, at the bidding of the omnipotent ordainer, breathed a new life into every human frame, and instilled into every word a fresh potency. We talked about it quite a bit during our class. We must pay attention to the language of revelation and how it dissects those things. When we say, Abdul Baha will say, love, 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 what does love mean in all writings? What is our duty? What is that? The love is duty. What is that duty? If you start implementing things that people did 2,000 years ago, that is opposite almost sometimes. That's not love anymore. Yeah. And the same thing, if you keep on choking a 14-year-old to say, you can't cross the road, you must hold my hand to cross the road. That was love for 2-year-old, but that's not love for 14. That love now that you're implementing on a 14-year-old is choking their life. Yeah. So we must pay attention to where our freedoms are. What is that love? What freedoms God has given us, all of us, every one of us, no matter what relationship I am to all of you, right? I have certain rights and I have certain responsibilities and I have freedoms. I must learn that or I cannot live together the way God wants. Yeah. Potency. Every word has a fresh potency. All created things. All created things proclaim the evidence of this worldwide regeneration. O people, I swear by the one true God, this is the ocean out of which all seas have proceeded, and with which every one of them will
will
ultimately
ultimately be united. From him all the sons have been generated, and unto him they will all return. Through his potency, the trees of divine revelation have yielded their fruits, every one of which had been sent down in the form of a prophet, bearing a message to God's creatures in each of the worlds whose number God alone in his all-encompassing knowledge can reckon.
whose number, prophets' numbers, right? So it's not just 9 manifestations we teach in children's classes and then we get stuck on that. Those 9 manifestations were created by William Sears just so the children will understand that we believe in all these different chapters of religion. Lots of times Baha'is get stuck on that. It's like, that's the manifestations, everybody else is something else. So here again, Baha'u'llah is saying no. And Igan, his whole book is saying, no, that's not what it is. This is what it is. But we keep on getting confused over these issues, right? The world whose number, messengers and messages, whose number God alone in his all-encompassing knowledge can reckon. All of them are converging onto this cause. I was a child given birth on this world. Different people took care of me at interval of every 2 years of my age. Every one of their purpose was, so when I become 20 to 21 or 24, that I become this person, right? So if God is a eternal thing, and that's what the messengers are, that's what they're doing. Yeah, they're raising me from stage to stage to stage as one entity to then when I finally grow up, that I have this certain personality and character, and then I'm put to work. Yeah? So that is the day to day now. All of them have been raising us here, and here we are converging onto Baha'u'llah. If you don't come to it, you have not came to any one of them. If you don't do things that are required of you when you're 21, 24, then you wasted your childhood and your teenagers and your life, actually, past and future. Yeah. If you really get lost at that age, you have destroyed everything. Before and after, that's what is happening, right? One, this
he had accomplished through the agency of but one letter of his word revealed by his pen, a pen moved by his directing finger, his finger itself sustained by the power of God's truth, by the righteousness of the one true God. If one speck of a jewel be lost and buried beneath a mountain of stones, and lie hidden beyond the 7 seas, the hand of omnipotence would assuredly reveal it in this day, pure and cleansed from dross. Every single letter proceeding from our mouth is endowed with such regenerative power as to enable it to bring into existence a new creation. A creation, the magnitude of which is inscrutable. And all save God. He verily hath knowledge of all things. It is in our power, should we wish it, to enable a speck of floating dust to generate, in less than the twinkling of an eye, sons of infinite, of unimaginable splendor, to cause a dewdrop to develop into vast and numberless ocean, to infuse into every letter such a force as to empower it to unfold all the knowledge of past and future ages. We are possessed of such power, which if brought to light will transmute the most deadly of poison into a kaneka of unfailing efficacy.
So everything you struggle around in the world, you turn to the writings, it has the answers there for you. How do we see each other? How do we see nationalities? How do we see people? How do we see gender? How do we see business? How do we see economy? How do you see your lives? What's the relationship of husband and wife? What are my parents? What are my siblings? What is what? Anything. The world is clamoring out there. Every day there is a new fashion about all these issues. The writings have the answers. God has spoken. If you know it and live accordingly, hopefully that will show the world. All right, so we have Everybody's read, right? We have only 12 paragraphs left. So let's stop today early, especially since these two have to go somewhere as well. And because we can finish it next time. So we will be finishing it next time, I believe, God willing. So would you agree? Let's stop here, yeah? Everybody read today, and plus Alicia is not here too, so let's hope she didn't miss too much. Just okay, so I want to have another homework, and even though it's later, but maybe I should give it to you now so you can have enough time. It just occurred to me while we were reading this, by the way, this portion, that we have about 2 weeks. If we finish next week, then we have more than 2 weeks off in between, almost 3 weeks before we start again after Nowruz. During this time, individually, on your own, or with your family, whichever suits you, I would like you to print out the tablets of divine plan. There are 14 tablets, a very small piece of work, by the way. It's like tiny little pamphlet level of stuff, because some of the tablets are just like a paragraph, and some are just a page, right? So there are 14 tablets, but it's not very huge amount of work, because they are the core of divine plan that you are actually running everywhere. All the stuff or core activities or this or that, whatever we have been doing and whatever changes we are making is all part of divine plan, right? So we are experimenting different things, of course. Abdul Baha didn't say about these core activities. The house created those, or somebody created those and the house took it. But they're all experiments to do that divine plan. How do we get to that end, right? How do we build communities? So we have been experimenting this for, as the house called it experimentation, by the way. I'm not doing this. So we are experimenting with this for 25 some years now. And previously, of course, the Guardian was in charge. So we were more cognizant of how to do it, and we did it more properly, I guess. We will keep on doing this until we reach the Commonwealth, right? So since every one of our life is involved in, to whatever degree we are trying to help the cause, is based on those 14 tablets, right? Those 14 tablets, of course, are based on what Baha'u'lláh wanted. Make sense? But Abdul Baha took what Baha'u'lláh wanted and made a blueprint for us for how to get there. Yeah? So it will be good to read those. Yeah. So just please, everyone, read it together, read it alone, whichever way. But before we start some answered questions, it's a long time in between for now, almost a month you have or more. And it's, as I said, a very small piece of work. If you don't have it, let me know just in the text of the group, and I will send you the PDF. But print one for each one of you, put it on your bedside table, do a tablet or two at night. It's only 14, right? So it's not a hardship, and read them. Take a highlighter and pencil with you when you're reading them, and make notes of what strikes you, right, out of that. So the common stuff we already know and all that, of course, it's a pleasure to read it, move forward, but there are things that you wouldn't have known before or wouldn't have reflected on those before. Those are the things, I mean, that strikes you out of that. Make notes about that. And if there is any question arises, of course, you're always welcome to send it over. But before we start some answer questions, maybe we'll have half a session or maybe a full session to discuss those. Yeah, that would be great. That would be wonderful. All right, any other comments, questions before we go? I'll see you next week. All right, love you all. Good night. Well, have a good day. Good night to us.
So much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, have a good time for Zana and Neil.
Thank you.
Bye, sweethearts.
Bye.
Bye.